Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I am live with Lea Newman today. She is the author of 2 books. Can you say your first book?
My first book is called You Healthier Now.
And her new
Yeah.
book? Can you hold your book up?
Oh, sure. Well, I'll hold both.
Yes. You Healthier Now and Unstuck Yourself.
Yeah.
Totally. We have known each other for like ever, since our
Right?
days of competing at Miss Fitness USA in 2005. And we've been friends ever since. And we have evolved from, just being, I don't know, getting out of your comfort zone, I guess, to
Yeah.
soaring into yourself, like who you're meant to be and into the greatness of all you can be. And so I'm just really excited to give you a little bit of backstory on my friendship with Lea, but I want to really dive into, she is like amazing. She's worked with Tony Robbins. She's a life transformation coach. She helps people get the voices out of their head. She helps them to shut the F up, according to her bio,
Yeah.
and so that they can start living their best life. So you guys, she holds a lot of certifications and she's coached for elite, training programs. Unstuck Yourself contains the key to her clients getting unstuck and staying that way. So you can join her free Facebook page for learning and support at facebook.com groups Unstuck Yourself.
Yeah.
And we'll post that because there's a lot of slashes. Cool. So I want to make sure you get it. So it'll be in the show notes. It's a really great group. Lea does a lot of live. So you can get on and kind of see what her coaching style would be like. And today she's going to give you an insight into that in her book. So welcome, Lea Newman, to the show.
Linda. It's so good to see you. Like, it's been a while.
I know, right? Oh my God.
The last time I saw you was when we competed in Denver in April of 2014.
I think that was it.
Right
was
before 2014. It was right before I retired from the Air Force.
Oh my gosh. Right. It was 2014.
Yeah.
Wow. In Colorado at the Tiffany Youth Show.
Yep. It's been a while.
It was so fun. I was so glad I came and stayed with you. We had a blast.
Yep. And remember I had my first RV out in the parking lot and we did hair and makeup out in the parking lot. I had just bought my RV.
I remember that. And I remember how, okay, you guys, I'm like the person, I got to know what outfits I'm wearing, what costume, like in advance. Lea is just like the night before deciding she's going to be the hot pink lady. And she
totally changed my costume.
She designs it. She puts it together. No stress, no sweat. And it turns out amazing. Nobody could have a costume like that because it was just creative and on the spot. It's not, a lot of times you buy something, it couldn't compare to the original creation.
Yeah. I remember I hand sewed on an L, like a Laverne and Shirley L.
Oh my gosh, we'll have to put a picture.
Yeah, because of my name, I hand sewed on an L. I remember.
And you still have your 2 dogs, your 2 mini-me's?
I do. My babies are in their kennel right now.
So my gosh.
They might hopefully behave. Max and Lola are
my God.
currently being quiet. I can't promise for the duration of the entire interview.
Fur babies. I just remember how adorable they were. And I have 2 little fur babies too.
Yeah.
I have Peanut and Snickers.
Oh my goodness.
Does it sound like I won candy back when I named them?
Right?
Yeah, that's it. That must be it. But they're cute as can be, and sometimes I show them, but they're outside because they've been rowdy today.
Oh well, yeah.
The little one likes to egg the big one on.
Yep, Max likes to bark. He sits in the front window here of the RV, and if people are walking by, he'll start barking, and Lola will come back and be like, "Yeah, what he said." He's the backup feisty one. It's kind of funny. So hopefully they'll be quiet during the interview.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, you guys that are just tuning in, today we are talking about how to get unstuck.
Yes.
And I don't know, I would say that could relate to 99.9% of us at some point in our lives, where you either feel like you're stuck in a job you hate, or a relationship that isn't going well, or, it could be a number of things, a bad habit. And Lea
Lots of things.
going to help us with that today. And so one of the first things I want to say, I was diving into the book and I was just curious. You talk a lot about why it's important for us to understand how our brain works.
Mm-hmm.
And I really began to realize how true that was after being an abuse survivor and, many other things along that line. I never realized how when your amygdala is stressed,
Mm-hmm.
you're almost paralyzed. Like,
absolutely. Well, it is more than the amygdala, and I really want to.
Okay. So I want you to dive into the brain here and just tell us how it works, why it's important.
Sure. The amygdala and other parts of the brain. there's a lot of pieces and parts, but for the book, I had to really try and distill it down because
make it simple for layman terms, right?
Yeah. I mean, the truth is you guys need to know all the,
much.
You don't need to know all the nitnoid pieces of the brain in order to understand this concept. But the amygdala is an area that most people are familiar with. And just to distill it down, there are parts of the brain that are associated with fight or flight and stress responses. And then there are parts of the brain that produce, positive endorphins. They produce serotonin, dopamine, right? And they're just the feel-good hormones. And when you're in that fight or flight, it's like you said, it's like all consuming. You are on autopilot at that point. Just autopilot, and it's not necessarily an empowering autopilot, right? But when you have serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, and those feel-good endorphins running through your body, that fight or flight, the triggering is less likely to occur.
So I know with post-traumatic stress disorder and many other things like that, you have these triggers where you just people might not even realize they're triggering your flight or fright response.
Yeah.
Your survival mode, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So how do people that have that, how do they recognize those triggers, and what are ways they can kind of get themselves out of that mode, out of the fright or flight?
Right. And so first, what I'll say is that things like PTSD, that is a little bit outside the scope of my book, in the sense that it's something that you probably you need professional help with that. Right. That said, things like depression and PTSD and that kind of stuff, seek professional help. And there are things that you can do to support yourself, right? Like do everything in your power to put yourself and give yourself a fighting chance, right? And that's what I'm talking about in this book. So how do you know that you're in a situation where your fight or flight is being triggered?
Yes.
I guess I would just prefer to stay away from PTSD because that is a condition that, does require professional help. But, how does the average person know that they're being triggered? I would say that it's different for everybody. But as I've been talking to people, I think the common thing is people experience tension here in the chest or across the shoulders or up into the neck. That, shoulders kind of come up there and there's this shortness of breath, right? And that is generally how most people report, the body sensation that most people report that they experience in those moments. Does that make sense?
Awesome. Yeah, totally. So, let's go back to the brain for a minute. Just explain again, how does our brain work and why is it so important for us to understand that to getting unstuck?
Yeah. So, you have an outside stimulus, and your brain processes it. I don't want to go into way too many details, but like your brain processes it. If it perceives it as a threat, it can send you into fight or flight. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so, and then you're reacting. You're in a reactionary mode. Okay. You could also experience an outside stimulus, process it, and not perceive it as a threat. And so then you're just kind of neutral. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now,
yes.
What we know too, though, is when there's serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine, and those feel-good hormones, as you process, you're less likely to get triggered, less likely to go to that fight or flight response. You know, your brain is constantly processing things to determine, you know, is the saber-toothed tiger going to jump out from behind the rock over there, like back in caveman days? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so it's putting everything through that filter, and it will make you actually think that if your friend didn't call you back, you know, quickly enough, you're going to die, because, you know, that must mean that you're on the outs with them, and that means you can't be around their campfire anymore, and they're not going to support you, right? And helping you find food. Like, we make it mean that level, like we're going to die. And obviously, most of these things these days, you're not going to die.
Well, they say that it could even be like if I was having a really intense workout, like where I was sprinting and I was really over the top with it, that your body doesn't know the difference between that and being chased by a tiger.
Exactly. Yeah. So is the workout that you're doing, is it creating, you know, cortisol, which you and I are really familiar with? That's the hormone that creates stress, you know, is the body's
stress and breakdown of the body if you have too much. Yeah.
Or is it contributing to those positive endorphins that help you feel really good? Serotonin and oxytocin, the things that make you feel really good. And it's
the hormone of the sisterhood of sweat. It's our favorite hormone, because when we get together as women, we secrete oxytocin, which is like the love and the cuddle hormone. It makes you feel all warm all over.
Yep, exactly. And so it's about making sure that your workouts are contributing to the positive, empowering feel-good hormones, instead of, as you said, flipping over to the other side, which is, you know, the stress hormones and creating that fight or flight.
So what are some other ways we can recognize triggers? Like, because I think that's a really good word, because I think some people are just totally sane and totally normal and totally laid back, and then all of a sudden they're not. They're cray-cray, or they're just raging, or they're having a fight, or they're stressed or whatever, and something triggers that. How can they begin to recognize what triggers them? And
are you talking about when you're working with somebody else or talking to somebody else?
Other people. Like, no, how do people out there that are listening that get triggered, because we all do, we all have our triggers, that something that might like make you mad or make you feel insecure or like whatever, how do they recognize what triggers them and learn to protect themselves? You know, like when you're on a diet, you got to learn, what are my weaknesses? So you learn, munching in front of the TV, I got to either have healthy snacks, or I got to not eat like when I watch the TV.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You know, you kind of just said it. It's really about, does it feel good? Like
strategy.
Yeah. Does it feel good? If it doesn't feel good, then you've been triggered. Like, it's really that simple. If it brings you joy, happiness, peace, calm, yay, those are the things we want. Right? Those are the things we want. But if it makes you feel other things other than that, no.
Cut it the hell off.
Yeah. No, I got a thing. It's 1/2 past a freckle. I gotta go. Like, I can't. No, not you right now. You know, does that make sense? Like,
right.
It's literally that simple. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it.
Okay, I like it. Let's keep it simple, sis. All right.
Yeah, super.
So what role I found out as I went through menopause that hormones play a huge role, that in pregnancy and adolescence and, you know, you name it. But majorly in menopause, when you lose a lot of them. You
Mhm.
learn how much hormones really play a role with the brain, with the emotions,
Mhm.
um, the good feelings, the mind, all of it, anxiety.
Mhm.
How much of a role do you feel hormones play, and what is it? What is the role?
When you're talking about trigger
You just cut out for a second
showing
there.
up.
There you
Oh,
go. You're back.
sorry. Are you there? Okay, great.
Like with the
So,
brain and with just basically getting unstuck, like how people.
well, I think it's important to be aware that hormones do play a role and ask yourself, are you contributing to showing up as your high level self, or are you creating an environment where your low level self gets to show up as much as it wants, right? Um, it is my belief that when you're proactive, and you mentioned things like menopause and even like PTSD and things like that, you know, are you contributing to are are you contributing to your own rescue? Are you showing up for yourself and creating an environment
I think a
where
lot of people are not. They
I
just
know, and that's why I wrote this
suffer. They
book.
suffer like I named my last podcast "Not Your Mother's Menopause" because women are not suffering anymore. They're like, "Hey, give me that bioidentical hormone. I'll take
Yeah.
that."
Mhm.
So, are you suffering in silence, or are you realizing that that's part of self-care, like taking
Yeah.
care of you and what you need to be your best self?
Right. And
Right?
that's really what this book is all about. It's about you can like participating in your own rescue. Am I saying that you're never going to experience tension or you're never going to experience stress? No, that's part of being a human being. It's normal that those kinds of things are going to come up. But what I am suggesting is that you can participate in your own rescue. You can show up for yourself in a very powerful way by doing things consistently, regularly, and setting your life up in a way that you don't you're not going to be triggered as much, right? And that you are contributing to those feel good hormones and you're creating a lifestyle that just feels good.
Now, how do you recognize when you're your own worst enemy, like you are the saboteur?
Well, and that's where coaching can be helpful, getting an outside perspective and having somebody hold up a mirror for you and go, let's take a look at that interesting little behavior you have there. Like, how is that? Is that helping you or hurting you? And that's where that can be really supportive.
Yeah, so having some hands-on coaching, like the program you have coming up, what is the name of that one that you're getting ready to start with? What's like a group program?
Right. So the first week of October, I'm calling it the Great Unstucking. Um, this time last year, I ran a free group, and it was called Unstuck Yourself. This was before the book came out, and back then my
I
group was
remember I
called
saw that come up. Yeah,
right. Like back then, my group was called like Radiant Soul Sacred Circle or something like that,
yeah.
right? And I just kept on having people come to me saying they were stuck, they were stuck, they were stuck. So I did a week-long program called Unstuck Yourself. And since then, that has been turned into a course. And I've done some updates and revisions since I wrote the book. So that is going to be happening in my free group for
Nice.
free. Once again,
Yay, you
it'll be the
guys,
last
you
time
hear
it's going to be
that?
for free. Yeah. But in that free group, I'm going to be doing it and talking about my formula for, we talk about creating an environment where you're supporting yourself. It's my formula of first is breath. You and I both know breath is just oh so very important in keeping stress levels low. The second one is getting present. So that could look like meditation or little mini meditations that I call well, I don't call it. The original author, Shirazad Tremaine, calls PQ reps, which is getting really present with any one of your five senses for only 10 seconds. It's this little mini meditation that I teach people because it's so useful. You can do it anywhere.
I
And
used
then,
the first one, the breath.
yeah.
I used it yesterday when my therapist pulled out the brass knuckles and rubbed
Oh,
out my reattached hamstring.
ouch. Yeah, breath can totally help get you centered in that moment.
I
Absolutely.
had to use it. It
Yeah.
worked 100%. I
Yeah.
call
It
them the
keeps you
brass
just kind
knuckles,
of
but
calm.
Don't like it.
Right? So breath, PQ reps are getting present. And then the third piece of the formula is something I call filling your cups. As you mentioned earlier, self-care. It's just another way of saying
You can't
self-care.
give from an empty cup.
Exactly.
Yep.
But I expand self-care. Self-care doesn't always look like going for massages or mani-pedis. I mean, it can be that. But I break it down into like, what are the little things that you can do for yourself every day to support yourself?
Not hanging around somebody that drains your energy.
That too. That's a great example. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many ways. And
I like to look at it a different way though. I like to look at it as, who are the people that I want to spend more time with that allow me to feel amazing?
Right.
That there's less time for those people that drain you.
Right. Because you're surrounding yourself with people that lift you up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so, I know you talk a lot in the book about your high level self and your low level self.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we are stuck, I'm guessing we're in our low level self.
Generally, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So explain to everybody, what is your low level self and why do you want to be your high level self?
Right. So maybe
and how can we do that?
Yep. Maybe some of your listeners might identify with this. When you're in your low level self, there's a lot of chitter chatter going on up here. That's those voices that you were talking about, trying to get them to shut the F up, right? It's that chitter chatter. And it's up here. It's incessant.
It's worse. You're worse.
Right.
Yeah, it can be.
Just nonstop. It's nonstop, and it can feel overwhelming sometimes. There's often a lot of tension in your body. The voices, they have a whole lot of problems for any solution you come up with.
Okay. Yeah. Why? Oh, I can't possibly do that.
Right.
I'll have to start 3 weeks from now, or
right.
I could never do that.
Right. Generally, when you're in your level self, your energy is pretty low. You have a lot of coping mechanisms that aren't necessarily healthy. That's where, emotional eating can come in, and people pleasing and things like that.
Okay. People pleasing. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when we're in that state of being a low level self, it's like, yeah, you feel stuck because, these guys, any time you come up with a way that you can find your way out, if you can even see it, because they're just constantly.
Okay. How do you recognize that low level voice? Because
I think
not something that
I think most of us are familiar with that voice.
Okay. We recognize, but I got to tell you though, I mean, like I work a lot with my clients on rewiring the stories they're telling themselves and that voice. I didn't call it their low level voice, but I love it.
Yeah.
I work a lot with them on recognizing it, because if they've been using that voice for 50 years,
oh yeah,
they don't even realize they're using it unless you I made them write down what they say to themselves for like a week, like things that they've said to themselves.
Yeah.
So that they can actually look at that and recognize it.
Yeah, and they're sneaky little buggers because they make you believe that it's your actual thoughts. One of the ways that you might notice these voices, they talk a lot about the future. And they create a version of the future that's very negative, very disempowering. Or they'll go into the past and just dredge up all the junk.
Oh, the worst thing that could possibly happen, and it never does, right?
Right.
It's your fear. It's your fear speaking.
Exactly. So this is the thing. In the future hasn't happened yet. So if they're talking to you about the future and what they believe is going to happen in the future, it's, the voices in your head, it's your saboteurs, because the future hasn't happened yet. How could they possibly know what's going to happen? And this is the funny thing too. Are you ready for this? The voices in your head that tell you that thing in the future that you want to do is going to fail epically. It's never going to work. The worst possible thing is going to happen, or you're going to die. It's choosing the one version of the future of all the versions of the future that could possibly happen, choosing the worst case scenario and making you believe that is the one that's going to happen. And the truth is there's like literally millions of other options.
Yeah.
Most of which are actually empowering. It would result in have a positive result. Oh no, we're just going to ignore all of those and we're going to go for the one worst case scenario. That's the one that's going to happen. And they're going to tell you all the stories that they need to tell you to get you to not take action, not step out your comfort zone, right? Because out there, outside your comfort zone, that's unsafe, that's scary. And then, are you ready? They're going to go into your past and they're going to dredge up all these examples from you.
Ooh, you just cut out again.
Are completely unrelated.
We'll have
They're completely unrelated.
You're back.
I'm sorry, say again.
You're back.
Oh,
I'm sorry. For a second. You were saying you were on a roll. You were talking about the disempowering voices.
Yeah. So they'll go into the past and they'll dredge up examples from the past, most of which are completely unrelated. Right. But they're
when you failed before and you got to reflip that switch to when you succeeded before.
Right. Right. But they're going into the past to dredge up the junk and use that as justification for you to not step out your comfort zone now.
Right, right. And basically, I would say to everyone out there, when you have these disempowering thoughts, you can choose to listen or not listen. Like JJ Virgin says, she has like a band, she'll snap it, delete, to delete, and then she rewires the thinking, like asking herself an empowering question such as, when was I successful before? Because your brain can only focus on what you're asking it. So if you're asking it a negative question, that's how you're going to answer it.
Well, ask a crappy question, get a crappy answer. Absolutely. But before you even do that, I would recommend using that formula again, right? Breath. That'll help you clear it. Getting really present. So a PQ rep or a little mini meditation of some sort. And then doing something that feels good. And that's why it's really powerful exercise. Like literally sit down and write out all the ways that you can fill your cup. Some of them are going to require an hour or more. Some of them can require 2 minutes. Like I can just pick up my doggie and pet my doggie for a quick minute and I'm rejuvenated, right? And after I've had breath, gotten present and pet my dog, okay, wait a second. So that's a good reset. Now let's ask a more empowering question. What is actually true?
There you go.
What's real here? And what's the BS that these guys are trying to feed me?
Yeah, and it's really, I know sometimes people don't take this stuff seriously. They think it's all woo-woo, but it really is not. It's
not at all.
Basically, if you're having disempowering thoughts and you're listening to them, then you're going to soon have disempowering beliefs. And
absolutely. Well,
that's going to lead to bad scenarios.
This is the funny thing about those voices in your head. Those voices in your head, truthfully, they're there trying to keep you safe. They're trying to keep you from dying. They're trying to keep you from the saber-tooth tiger around the rock. The problem is they're keeping you in your comfort zone. But this is what I know about people that live in their comfort zone. They're not comfortable. They're not comfortable because they're living in a constant state of fear.
There you go. That is perfect. I love that. That is so good. That is totally a tweetable.
Yeah. It keep like when you're in your comfort zone, the truth is you're there. Most people anyway, most people are in their comfort zone out of fear because out there is scary. Out there is danger. Out there, I might die. But then they're not experiencing the spice of life, which is variety and doing new things and having new experiences.
Right.
You know?
Right. Absolutely. I mean, like when you're out, we wouldn't have written our books.
Right.
I have my two. She held hers up, and we are authors and podcasters, and we stood almost buck naked on this stage.
Right?
I mean, seriously, you guys. We learned to basically get we had to do a speech and an evening out. We had to learn to get uncomfortable, like to be comfortable, to be able to do this now. And when you're stepping into yourself, it gives your highest self, it gives other people that permission to do the same because they're watching your life unfold before them. So people are waiting on you.
Absolutely. We talked about the low level self, which is
Let's
something that
talk
a
more
lot of
about the
us
high
experience.
level.
Yeah, let's talk about the high level self. The high level self is like the best version of you. And this is a constantly evolving thing too, because every time you are brave, every time you step outside your comfort zone, you disregard the voices that tell you you're going to die if you do the thing, and you're brave and you step outside your comfort zone actually expands. Your comfort zone
Right.
expands
It's like
to
a muscle.
accept exactly.
Yeah.
Your comfort zone expands to accept the new reality, and that new reality is the new version of you, the up-leveled version of you, your high-level self. Your high-level self is when you are like just jamming. Right? You're like zippity doo dah. I feel amazing. Problems happen, but you just kind of like, matrix it. You just keep going. You're able to handle it and press on. And it doesn't have that triggering effect. You're able to just go, okay, well, thanks so much for your input, and I'm going to keep going over here. And it's just,
it's easier. It's
yeah,
easier.
that stuck thing doesn't happen because you're in an empowering place and you're able to look at things from lots of different perspectives and pick the one that is best for you and best for everybody. It's a great space to be in. It really is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can cultivate it. You can cultivate it really by using this formula. And by the way, the formula can be used proactively. So my formula again is breath, getting present, and filling your cups. You can use that formula proactively, meaning like literally when you first start, schedule it. Put a reminder in your phone and schedule it so that you get accustomed to doing it, right? You've seen that step ladder of conscious incompetence moving to unconscious competence, right? So schedule it so that eventually you don't need an alarm anymore. It's just something that you do, right?
And again, just like she said, when you're stepping out of your comfort zone, it does make it so much easier. Like, that's why you should do it. Start small, but,
Mm-hmm.
do it. And once you do it,
Do
it
the
builds
thing.
that confidence because
Mm-hmm.
part of it is not having the confidence. And so you start doing something scary, you came out alive, and it wasn't half bad. And then the next time it's like, this was really cool.
And then
And
it's
just
something else.
then it's something else. And, then it's Tim's story on my podcast. Like,
Right?
I got over my fear of heights at the Grand Canyon, which was very scary. I put my face to the glass on the skywalk. I am deathly afraid of heights. For those of you that have not listened to my prior podcast, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
But I was talking to myself and I was saying, you got to get on the other side of fear. What you want is on the other side. You're going to be rising to new heights in your career. You've got to be able to overcome this fear. And I totally believe in Tony Robbins, walk the coals, giving you confidence. And I believe that you have to do that in your life with all sorts of things to be able to rise up to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But your low level self is going to tell you doing those things, you're going to die.
Well, yeah, I was asking, is there earthquakes? I mean, like, I was just like, she's like, yep,
Right.
every day. I'm like, oh, great.
But there's a huge difference between like a fear of heights is an actual like survival mode, like survival thing. Like if you're standing with your toes on the edge of a cliff, that's a healthy fear, right? But when you're on this huge bridge that they've built and gone above and beyond to really make sure it's safe, that's a very different thing. Right. But your brain makes you think it's the exact same thing, but it's not.
But my brain, like, seriously, I pushed everybody in my whole entire family to be at the Grand Canyon on the skywalk, and I could not walk out on the glass. I had to, like, I seriously, I mean, had to get a conversation with myself, and then I only sat for my proof and then went right back to the wall at first.
Right.
And
but
then
the more you do things like that,
I
the more
forced
you
myself to
stretch
walk
yourself
the
in
whole
that way.
thing, and then came back, and then eventually press my, well, after I pressed my face to the glass,
Yeah.
I was not afraid anymore. And I have been less afraid over so many things. So many.
You got to go to Chicago. There's a thing, I forget at which building, but it actually tips you out like this, and it's glass and you're leaning against the glass. Have you seen
Looking to the sheer.
that? Right? Oh,
I haven't seen that. No, I haven't. I've been through the top of the Empire State Building, and I did look down to the bottom to the cement.
yeah.
And so, like, I've come a long way from
Right.
the phobia, like, a long way.
But you only get there by dipping your toe outside your comfort zone, and
Right.
then you're like, okay, I didn't die. Great. Let's let's do it
Let's
again.
go. Let's take it.
Right?
It's basically like a muscle. Like, it's like exercise. It's like sometimes
exactly
when you
what it
start
is.
working out, it's not always pretty. Like, maybe
Yep.
you haven't worked out in forever and you're like, oh my gosh, right?
Yeah.
But the more you do it, the better you become at it and the better you feel. And it's the same way with, I think, getting out of our comfort zones. I want to just flip the conversation back to, like, us being stuck, though. Like, that is getting out of your comfort zone. But, like, what if, like, I know a lot of people out there, maybe in a relationship where they feel like they're stuck, and they tell themselves they're stuck because I have children, I have, hang on for a second. Hey, Tiff. Sorry.
No worries.
My daughter's here from New York City, and she didn't realize she shouldn't open the door and let the salesman in.
Oops.
Okay. Okay.
You gotta
So
back
back to that. Well, she's the nicest person other than my mother on God's green earth. And of course her husband.
Yeah.
He's pretty nice too. So she's gonna open the door and let him in.
Right.
All right. So being stuck, like, I'm stuck in a relationship and I feel that, like, stuckness because I'm either A, telling myself I can't get out of it, or B, for some reason in my brain, I think I have to endure it.
Yeah. So what I would tell you is right there, you just explained why people feel stuck, because they've made themselves experience a dilemma. It is either or for them. And when you believe that there's only two options, well, no wonder you feel stuck, especially when you're giving yourself two crappy options. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I
And
love
the truth
that
is,
answer.
there's always at least a third answer, if not fourth, fifth, sixth, 100th option. And that low level self, again, will make you believe that these are the only two ways that you can resolve this issue. But when you take a moment, take a breath, get present, go fill yourself up and get your mind quiet, get these guys to shut up, and you start coming from here, then you start to see that there's other options available to you.
So it's basically a perception in a way, right? What you're perceiving.
Stuck is always a perception.
Yeah, you have to change the perception and invite other ideas in.
Now, I'm not going to act like, the choices are always, happy, hunky-dory, peachy keen, like amazing options. But even if it's an uncomfortable option, it may still be the best option for you to get you to the happy that you're looking for.
Right. You might have to be uncomfortable for a while. Yeah. Anytime you leave a bad situation, you might be uncomfortable. It's not going to be like, always a bed of roses, right?
Sure. But your belief that there's only two options, especially crappy options, is generally the issue.
Okay. I love that. I love that.
So always look for a third option. And what I notice is when people start looking for that third option, they start to see a fourth, fifth, sixth, and more.
When can voices be in your head be a good thing?
I personally believe never. Yeah, truthfully. In my work with people, what I notice is when these voices are up here and they're incessant, that's never a good thing. That's never supported.
Tell them to get out of their head?
I do tell them to get out of their head and get into their heart. The voice that comes from here, some people say
that's the one to listen to.
Yes. Some people say it comes from their chest, their heart, like their solar plexus area. Sometimes people will say their gut. That's the voice you want to listen to. That's the one. And let me tell you, that voice just makes a statement and they're done.
It's like, woo.
It's like
the authentic you.
Yeah. It goes, you shouldn't do that. Or go pursue that thing. Right. And it's like, boom.
Yeah.
And then it shuts up. It doesn't go on and on and on about it. It just goes, go do the thing. But these guys go, you shouldn't do the thing, because if you do the thing, then this is going to happen. Again, going in the future. If you go do the thing, then, you know, people aren't going to like you and you won't be loved and nobody's going to ever talk to you again. You're going to be in financial ruin. You're going to lose your job. You're not going to have a house. These guys, that's how they act. This one just goes, go do the thing.
All right. So listening to our internal voice.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. What are the 6 human needs?
Right. Okay. So this comes from Tony Robbins, and the 6 human needs are really, it's the needs that we're all working to fulfill. Everything that we do is driven by these 6 human needs, and they are certainty. So our need to be safe and know what's going to happen next. Uncertainty, isn't that a lovely paradox? Because we want variety. I mean, a great example of that is if I gave you your favorite meal for every single meal for a week, at the end of the week, you probably don't want it anymore because you'd have certainty that that's the next meal that's coming. Does that make sense? So you want that variety as well. Then there's significance, the need and desire to feel important, feel like we're adding value, loving connection, and that can be with ourselves or with other people, growth and contribution, you know, giving to something bigger than ourselves. And so, you know, it's really important to look at what needs are you trying to meet. You can meet these needs in empowering ways or disempowering ways. I can get significance by serving somebody, or I can get significance, you know, by being abusive. And now you, like, I am the most important person in the room to you right now. Right. Does that make sense?
Yes. There
I'm here. I'm here. Yeah. And so it plays a role in everything that we do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think a lot of times we think we don't have the power. We think we don't have the control to get unstuck or to change. But I would just say this quote that I really love, and I portrayed her at Fitness America. Glinda says, you had the power all along. And always. I think you have to recognize that you do have the power to become unstuck. All you have to do is take the reins in any situation.
Absolutely. And, you know, some people think coaching is about the coach telling you what to do. And it's the complete opposite. A coach is about asking you questions and challenging you to go have some experiences that allow you to see and understand what is truly within you.
What's coming up with your own answers, really.
Right. What is it that you want for yourself? Like, a coach is not telling you what to do. Rather, a coach is asking you a question or challenging you to have experiences that allow you to see what your path is. It comes from you, from within.
Yeah. And what are some scenarios of situations, of course, not naming the people, where you've coached someone that was stuck, their dilemma in their solution?
Oh boy. Oh. That's a really tough question, because, like, I kind of get so present with the person in the moment.
Just like, something simple.
Yeah, I mean, it can be really simple. It's as simple as, you know, somebody saying, well, I want to work out, you know, just to use a context that you're familiar with. Well, I want to work out more, or I want to lose weight. Well, is it really about wanting to lose weight, or is it that you want to experience energy and vitality? And
right. A lot of times
the byproduct,
we don't recognize what the true desire is behind wanting to be in shape, or wanting to look good, or, you know, wanting to get that college degree. Like, sometimes it's, I want to be recognized. I want to be important. I want to be smart. I want to be thought of as funny. I want to be thought of as pretty. Whatever reason. I want to be.
But if we go back to that weight loss example, people make it mean I have to exercise, you know, for 3 hours a day, right? 6 days a week, or I'm going to do nothing, right? It's that dilemma again.
Oh, right. Either or,
And
right?
it's
All or
couldn't be
nothing.
further from the truth. Maybe right now it looks like you're working out 2 days a week for 30 minutes. Look, that's better than what you were doing last week. So can we celebrate that win? And as you expand, as you grow, it might mean more or not, depending on what the desire truly is.
Like right now, I just had to focus on what I can do.
Yeah.
Which wasn't a
With
lot.
your hamstring. Yeah. With your
I
hamstring,
promise you guys, I was like, feel like I was on my belly like a walrus or a seal for the last 2 weeks. I went from flying high to no flying. So, but it was
Yeah.
good because I think it was a life interruption, like Tim's story says, and I stopped, I looked, I listened, and got in touch with things I could do instead.
Yep.
Right? The other side of myself, not just the fitness part of myself.
But that's the high level version of you that's coming to this going, okay, I could let these guys go on and on about all the things that I'm not doing or about how I'm not able to show up like I normally do. Or I can put my energy and effort towards the things that I am able to do. You know, I'm sure, for example, you know, right now you can be doing upper body exercises and focusing on that as an example. You know, and just again,
which I did today.
Yeah. Or you
because guys, I'm 4 weeks ahead of schedule.
Nice. But the other thing is you can also use it and acknowledge it and say, you know what, this is my body needing a break. And I'm going to use this time to dive into my personal development, to dive into my mindset
totally.
work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like a sanctuary of learning, of listening to podcasts, of writing, reading, you know, just basically filling my cup.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been doing that 100%. And I let my body heal and let it repair and let it rest, which is not my normal. I need to incorporate that into my life more. And also I would say that, you know, another example of getting yourself kind of those voices gone, I was judging myself like as I was running before this repair, I was like, oh gosh, I'm a running coach. People are gonna see me running without a hamstring and they're like, what the heck?
That's totally those voices.
Like look at her run. She's just like crazy with that. And then I had the empowering voice and the, you know, flipping that switch of, well, people might be watching. I'm going to give them a show. So I ran because it made me feel better. And
or there's also the other version of this is part of the thing. Sometimes injury happens and I can show up as my low level self and boo-hoo, my hamstring doesn't work. Or I can show up as my high level self and say, hey guys, sometimes when injury happens, you know, you have to care for yourself and you can show up for yourself and show them that. That can be really powerful. You can be the role model for this is how you can navigate injury, which by the way is going to happen from time to time.
You know, I just basically, actually, I love what I did because I am 4 weeks ahead. Like they took me out of my harness to 0. That never happens. And I was only 13 days out from surgery of reattachment. So that's huge. And I really attribute it to the fact that I just worked everything I could work. I asked my doctor and he said, well, if you do any, you know, there's not much worse damage you could do if you, you know, we'll fix it and don't live in fear. Just do what you can do and then we'll do your surgery. And so I kept my body healthy and I took really good care of it. And that to me was
you can with what you have.
Yeah. And then now here I am 2 weeks, like not even at 2 weeks. And I am able to weight bear and walk with crutches with the harness completely. It was like, I want to burn this sucker.
I bet. For somebody as active as you, right? That could be a torture situation, but I'm loving seeing your high level self come forward and be the role model for what it's like, you know, to really care for yourself in these situations. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's right. Awesome. And I just really have focused on eating healthy and eating, you know, like before I would be drinking a gallon of water, but when you're in a harness and you can't get up and down very
Right.
like well with one leg,
Yeah.
you have to be careful not to use the other because you're going to tear it if you do.
Yeah.
You don't want to drink a gallon of water. Like
No.
you are, no.
I do not need to
So
be
like
running to the bathroom
that's how.
20 times today.
So, and like my mom's 81, she made me vegetable soup 3 times. My mom
Aw,
is the best. And
moms are the best.
I was like, I'm eating this vegetable soup. So I have a coach. I'm eating this vegetable soup and I'm sorry it's not on plan, but my mom made it for me and
Yeah,
I'm
so
eating
I'm
it.
eating. Mhm.
Yeah. But she like then said, no, it was perfect. It's perfect for you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I love this conversation today. And if you guys have really enjoyed this, make sure to check out Lea Newman at her Facebook group. Just search it on
Just search
Facebook.
Unstuck Yourself. You'll find it.
Yes, you'll find her. Just unstuck yourself, guys. It's a very catchy title. I love it. I love my time with Lea. Lea is the best, and she's a true blue person, sincere, and she's been through a lot. So she really has a lot of experience, and she's worked with the best. I mean, Tony Robbins, for example. So you guys can't go wrong checking out her free group coaching that's coming up. Tell them again where they can find it.
Yeah, just in that group, just search Unstuck Yourself. You're looking for the Unstuck Yourself community, not the Academy. The Academy is my paid membership group, but it's going to be running that first week of October. So next week in my free group, just look it up, Unstuck Yourself.
And she's beginning a new podcast.
Yes, I'm really excited.
Yay.
So I've started recording for that. Basically what's happening there is I'm offering people 6 coaching sessions that we're working on one particular issue, and we're recording it. So people are going to share their coaching sessions on my
I'm really excited. That's going to be great. So great. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yay. Yay. Well, you guys, make sure you check out the podcast, share it with your friends, ask any questions you have below, and I'm sure Lea will come on and respond.
Absolutely.
And as always, I thank everybody for supporting the Sisterhood of Sweat because we all just need a little support and love in our lives. Thanks,
Absolutely.
everybody.